I think that thoughts don't originate in our brains. They are floating around us. Thought streams, thought forms, streams of consciousness, and of course, the thoughts that are being sent to us were all really telepathic already. And so everything really is channeled in that sense. Now, we also do create our reality. When we create our reality, that is our projection of our consciousness, but everything that we are receiving is in terms of a thought, an idea, an intuitive hit, some inspiration, that's all coming as a download to us.
Welcome to the Sacred Planet podcast. I am your host, Jocelyn Starfeather. We are living at the end of a massive 26,000 year cycle. This is a cycle that can be defined not astrologically, but astronomically by the movement of the North Star in the sky. Every 26,000 years, we come back to the original North Star. The times that we are living in now are when one of these 26,000 year cycles is ending and a new one is beginning. And so this is why this time when we are alive right now has been foretold in the ancient prophecies of many indigenous and ancient peoples all around the world, from almost every continent. This is why the world feels so chaotic, so uncertain, and so unstable right now, because we are truly shifting from one age, one massive 26,000 year age, into a new one. This is also why we are seeing so many changes in our own lives, so many changes in the world. It's because the systems and structures, the patterns and beliefs that we have been carrying for an extremely long time are collapsing. They are breaking down. And this is terrifying and also very exciting, because those of us who are alive at this time, we get to choose what we will build next. We get to choose who we want to become in this new era. So it's really important to know during these times that these are actually not only ending times. This is not meant to be an apocalypse. This is actually meant to be the closing of a door to the old ways of being and the opening of a door to the new ways, to the radical new world that we are here to build together. We are here at this time, at this momentous time, to choose what will come next. And so let us dream into a world that our children and grandchildren and the next 7 generations will be delighted to inherit from us. And let's begin creating it one by one from within ourselves. That is where all change must begin, is from within every individual, and then it is rippled out to the world in miraculous and beautiful ways. Here in the Sacred Planet podcast, we will be talking about spiritual awakening. We will be talking about the massive changes that are happening in our world, and we will be talking most importantly about how you can support yourself, how you can feel most healed and healthy and whole and inspired and uplifted and ready to build this new world together, ready to choose who you wish to become next as all of the old falls away and we are left with a blank slate to create anything that we wish, anything that we dream into the future. Welcome to the Sacred Planet podcast. I can't wait to share the incredible speakers and topics that we'll be sharing here on the podcast. And I hope that it will be a tremendous inspiration to you in your own life. I am your host of the podcast. My name is Jocelyn Starfeather. I am the founder of Sacred Planet. Sacred Planet is a global community of people who are awakening to their true power and magic within and co-creating together and uplifting and inspiring one another as we build this radical new world together. I can't wait to share more with you. I'll see you soon in our next podcast episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sacred Planet podcast. I am Jocelyn Starfeather, your host for today, and I am thrilled to be here with Daniel Scranton. Hi, Daniel. Welcome. Thank you for being part of this.
It's wonderful to be with you again.
Yes, wonderful to be with you too, always. So, Daniel is a verbal channel, spiritual teacher, and sound healer. He has been channeling the 12th dimensional non-physical collective known as the Creators since the fall of 2010. Since then, a wide array of other guides and collectives have spoken through him. Some of those include Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Quan Yin, Yeshua, the Hathors, the Pleiadian High Council of Seven, and the Arcturian Council. He also discovered an ability to channel light languages and healing overtones, and he has used this ability to help others heal themselves and manifest the reality that they desire. Daniel works with individuals in one-on-one sessions, does group events, and teaches a variety of classes, including channeling classes. Daniel lives on the island of Maui with his lovely wife, Maricris, and their daughter, Thaléa. His daily healings can be found all over the internet, but you can always find the latest one at danielscranton.com and on his YouTube channel, where you can watch him channel each new transmission. And I want to thank you, Daniel, for your very inspiring work that you've been doing. And I always feel when I tune into what you're sharing, interviews and channelings, that you just have this very vast perspective. It's like this perspective encompassing all the galaxies, as far as what's happening here on Earth. And I just find that very helpful, very comforting. Right. And you bring such joy and love into all that you do. So thank you for your beautiful work.
Thank you for that compliment. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's dive in. I would love to learn more about some of these aspects of our reality that you are bringing into the world through your channeling and also through your teachings that are from the unseen realms, right? So these ideas of, channeling and light language. What is happening with channeling? Can you explain that for those who maybe are just beginning to explore these topics? What is channeling? And also, can everybody channel? Is that available to all of us?
Well, I think everybody already is channeling, because I think that thoughts don't originate in our brains. They are floating around us. Thought streams, thought forms, streams of consciousness, and of course, the thoughts that are being sent to us were all really telepathic already. And so everything really is channeled in that sense. Now, we also do create our reality. When we create our reality, that is our projection of our consciousness, but everything that we are receiving is in terms of a thought, an idea, an intuitive hit, some inspiration, that's all coming as a download to us. And depending on our vibration really determines everything. It determines not only what we think, how we feel, but what energies we're aligning with. So a person who is in despair is more likely than to not only receive thoughts that confirm that despair, create experiences that continue that despair until they do something within themselves to shift that. But also you're more likely then to connect with other people who are in despair, and then you commiserate with those people and you get together and talk about how terrible the government is, and the bosses, the corporations, the banks, and all of it, and then you stay in that vibration. So what a channeler does is a channeler says, I would like to receive higher information. I would like to be even before that, because what really made all the difference in the world for me was the decision that I made, that I just wanted to feel better. I just wanted to raise my vibration. And once I made that decision, I could sit and focus, because I had been meditating every day for 10 years by the time I started channeling. And I could sit and access what I wanted to access in terms of a higher vibration. And once you do that, then, well, let's say, is it all, it's not all going to be video. Some of it will just be audio for some people, right? Your
Some
podcast.
people will be just audio. Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm doing with my hand now is I'm holding my hand out and I'm shaking it slightly so it looks like it's vibrating. And it's at a certain level on the screen, right? People who are seeing it are seeing that it's about my chin level. And then as I raise my vibration, I vibrate faster and higher. So now I'm up here. So now what I have access to is about eye level. And let's say the beings I channel are vibrating up here at about the crown of my head, and they're vibrating really fast. So now once I go up here, we can connect because we're on a similar wavelength. You're not going to vibrate yourself into the ninth dimension, let's say, where the Arcturian Council are, who I channel for the daily transmissions that I put out. You're not going to go to the ninth dimension unless you leave your body, which we all do at night when we sleep. But you are going to be of a frequency where you can meet in the middle with them and make a connection and start merging consciousness, merging energy. And then what you're receiving from them as you channel is also going through your body and going through your filters. So you really want to go into this without an agenda. You know, you don't want to go into your channeling with the agenda, let's say, of trying to prove that the earth is really flat because you're into flat earth theory and you'd like to get some confirmation from above of or of some other conspiracy that you've seen on the internet, because that will, of course, taint whatever it is you're getting, even if you do raise your vibration. Because I've seen channelers who are very conspiratorial and they only want to talk about conspiracies. And I think that's because that's what they're interested in. Again, they may be at that level of consciousness where they're in the victimhood, us versus them mentality. So then, even though they're shifting slightly their vibration and raising their consciousness a little bit to be able to channel, it's still coming through a filter then that is going to give people a sort of combination of what it is that they've been thinking about and a higher frequency energy that's trying to, like, I don't know, help people who are into that sort of conspiracy to have a different perspective on it that will be. But the thing is, when I see those channelings, I never see anything about it that's like, you need to love these people, you know, you need to work on yourself. It's only about what they're doing out there. So I honestly don't know what's happening when it comes to people who are channeling like that. But I do know that all of us have the filter within us, that the channeling has to come through the channeler. So for the channeler to be more focused on meditation, yoga, doing being in nature, doing the work on themselves in their relationships, because our relationships are, of course, the way in which we grow exponentially through the way that the people that are in our lives challenge us to grow and become unconditionally loving of them. So the channeler really needs to take care of themselves in order to not taint everything that they're downloading, so that it's more of a reflection of the channeler's beliefs. So a good example of this is Esther Hicks. Esther says that one of the reasons why, or Abraham says this about Esther, one of the reasons why Esther was such a wonderful candidate for bringing through the Abraham material is that Esther didn't have an axe to grind. She didn't have an agenda. She didn't have a lot of beliefs about a lot of things. She just wanted to live happily ever after with her husband, Jerry. And then along came Abraham, and that became basically the teachings of Abraham, which is like how to live your life in such a way where you feel free and you feel like you're in joy and appreciation a lot of the time. So where the channeler is on their journey when they start channeling will probably reflect what it is that comes through them, and it will color it. Every channeler, if you haven't noticed this already, for those of you who've read and listened to a bunch of different channelers, it's different. It has a different flavor to it, and that's because not only are they not all the same, so the beings that are being channeled are coming from different dimensions, different star systems, or they're different entities like a fairy or something, or people can channel Mother Earth or dolphins or, whales or whatever. So there are different beings coming through different human beings that then that collaboration, it's a merger, it's a merging of consciousness that creates a collaborative transmission, a message that is both what's being channeled and what the channeler then creates it into, because you as a channeler have to take it and make sense of it. You're never, as a channeler, just a puppet who's being used like a ventriloquist dummy by some non-physical hand that comes up in you and starts moving your lips and talking for you. Even if you're a trance channeler, the channeler is still a part of it. They're still going to use largely their language that they speak in. They're not, if you don't speak French, you're not going to be channeling in French. They're probably going to use a lot of the same vocabulary and ways of speaking that the channeler has, because that's the vessel that it's coming through. So that's a very long-winded answer, and I could probably keep talking, but I don't want to dominate this too much. So go ahead and give me your thoughts or reflections on that.
Yeah, it is so fascinating, all the different, modes of channeling, right? All the different ways that it comes through. And this question of, being like a pure channel or pure vessel for that, I feel is really important. Like you're saying, some people might be going into it with this real ego orientation of like wanting to prove a particular theory or whatever that may be, right? And then it can't come through as pure as somebody who's just, really wanting to be an open messenger kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, you can't undo what you've already been exposed to in terms of the teachings or the philosophies, the theories you've come into contact with, unless you have a real good level of discernment within yourself, which is something that everyone really should be cultivating within themselves. Is you don't want to fall. So there's a spectrum, right? You have the spectrum of a person who's a complete skeptic and will even like start a website to say, I'm going to disprove everything on my website that I see out there that's even the tiniest bit esoteric and not scientific. When you see people like that, it's very fascinating. It's like you wonder, what is their motivation really for just wanting to disprove everything? And so you have the skeptics, the hardcore skeptics. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have people who say, well, it was channeled, so of course it's true. Like everything's true for some people. There are people who just don't ever check in to see like, well, how do I feel when I encounter this information? Because it's actually true that everything is true in some reality. You could say the earth is flat in some reality, that there's a reality out there, because every possibility that you can imagine is existing somewhere in some universe or some reality doesn't mean it's the one you're experiencing. And that's, and that's of course how some people get labeled as mentally ill, because they're experiencing something. They might be having a spiritual awakening and they're experiencing something that no one else is experiencing. And so everyone else thinks they're crazy. And of course, there really is real mental illness. I've worked in a mental health facility for 3 years, so I've seen it. And obviously we all know that there's trauma and there's things people experience that affect them emotionally and mentally for the rest of their lives, unless they get the help they really need. But what you want to do is you want to fall somewhere in the middle of that spectrum where you go, I'm open to something being true in my reality, but I also want to do a gut check and see if this is something that feels right to me, it resonates with me, and also whether I want to create that reality. So one of my other favorite teachers besides Abraham in my life has been Bashar, also another channeled entity. And Bashar will say, because Bashar is an ET and he has a ship and he's over Sedona in his ship. And so that would lead a lot of the people in the UFO ET realm to think that Bashar is just going to go along with every conspiracy that's out there, because a lot of people that get into UFOs and ETs are also really into conspiracies, because of course one of the very first cover-ups we're aware of is of the Roswell incident, the crash there, and then the government said no, it was just a weather balloon. So then now everybody in that realm thinks we're always being lied to. So, but Bashar is not of that ilk. Bashar will say, oh, you can make any conspiracy true if you believe in it. If you focus on it enough, then you can make anything true. So you have to realize that too, by being in the middle of those two extremes, that what you really want is you want to ask yourself, well, do I want this to be true? Because now, in addition to us having now this huge cornucopia of channeled material out there that tells people all kinds of stories about the world and what's really going on in the world, we also then have the huge number of stories about what's going to happen. And I'm sure you've seen them, and I know I've heard them, and I've even heard them from sources that I consider to be quite reliable, which are people who come back from a near-death experience and say, well, I saw the future. And there are, of course, some futures that are not great for humanity right now. You can obviously see that there's 8 billion of us, we're polluting the planet, and we're having all this impact on the world because we started living not in harmony with nature when we had our industrial revolution. We've just gone exponentially in that direction. And so we've obviously got to make changes, but the individual also is sitting right now in a place, each of us, where we get to choose from all those different timelines that are in front of us. And we don't have to choose a doom and gloom timeline just because there is that timeline, that possibility in front of us. We can say, well, how can I change what I'm vibrating, so that not only am I then channeling better feeling thoughts and ideas and intuitive hits, but I'm also going to be aligning myself with a better now moment, first of all, because that's the first thing you're creating is your now moment, and then a better future, one that does not include cataclysm after cataclysm that wipes out, half the population, because those are the types of stories you will see being presented as the truth with a capital T by people who somehow still believe that there's one future and that future cannot be altered in any way, that it's just an inevitable destiny for everyone, which of course it cannot be, because we are living in a multiverse. We're living in a sea of timelines that we are jumping back and forth to all the time. That's why people are talking about the Mandela effect and how they remember things differently than they are now. And that is because of all that timeline jumping. So people have to really recognize that just because they see something out there that is channeled doesn't mean it's the one reality that everyone has to agree is the only real reality or the only real future.
Right. Yes, this is such an important point for us in general, is to remember our agency, right? That we all play a role in how the future gets created, quite literally, but also energetically. It's like on the physical level, yes, we get to choose and we get to decide what we're creating for, as the world moves forward, but also energetically, and perhaps even more powerfully on an energetic level, what we choose to focus on, what we choose to fill our minds with, what we choose to fill our consciousness with, and our focus. So would you want to say anything more about that? That just seems like a really, really important point for all of us.
So right? Important. Yeah. It's like, there's this, I don't know if it's a cartoon or what it is, but I've seen this depiction of two guys, and in a hospital room, sometimes you have two beds in the same room and they have that divider and everything. And the one guy, his bed is by like the door. So he's just sitting there and maybe has a TV to look at, and he looks miserable and sick and everything. And then the other guy is sitting and he's got the window view on his side of the hospital room. So he's staring out the window and it's beautiful outside and there's birds and mountains and clouds and everything. And he's got a huge smile on his face, and they're in the same room. So that's a perfect metaphor for life. In other words, you've got to say, like, well, first of all, the only place I can live is right now. This moment I'm in is the only place I can exist really fully. Your head can be thinking about the past or the future, but you're not going to time travel there. You're still going to be here in the now. And if you look around in the now and you say, what is it about this moment that is perfect or that I can enjoy? What is it right now I could appreciate? Because you could just look around. Like, I'm sitting in this office that I've only had for a couple of months now because we're in this rental house. And I just looked over at the plant that I just recently bought. And I don't think about the plant all the time. I'm not focused on the plant all the time. But when I do look over at it, I can appreciate it in that moment and go, and I've got my cats here now. Like, they made the trip from Maui all the way over here. And so I can just pet my cats. There's one cat on either side of me. And so that is like the way that we can shift in the now moment to a higher, like I was saying before, you really want to channel energy that's coming from that higher frequency place, because we're swimming in this sea of energies and thoughts and thought forms. So how do you do that? It's different for everybody, because some people might be allergic to cats, so that's not going to be their thing to have two cats sitting next to them. But other people are, going to find that they need music to make them in that higher vibrational state, and other people are collectors of something, whatever they're into, whatever you're into, that brings you into that state of joy and raises your vibration. That's what you need to be focusing on in order to vibrate higher, to have access to better feeling thoughts, and then ultimately, if you want to channel to become a healer or something like that, you have to make how you feel important. And that's something that I've struggled with in all of this. And this whole philosophy is like, I don't know how to make someone care about how they feel. Like, I don't know how other beings could do that for us, if it's a possibility to convince people that, how they feel is really important, and it's something that they should be paying much closer attention to than the weather, than the stock market, than their bank account, than what so and so out there thinks, or is saying, or that has to be of paramount importance to us all. And I think all spirituality, when you look at it, when you get down to like the nuts and bolts of it, meditation is so important. And people still probably don't understand the importance and the power of meditation. One of the things that, as I started this little monologue here, I've come to realize that is the answer, really, is that because I remember Abraham saying at one point that once you start meditating, once meditation becomes a regular practice of yours, what will happen is what doesn't feel good is going to stick out more like a sore thumb to you, because you've started tuning in more. Meditation is about, it's not just about sitting in non-thought. That's what people often think. If you ask them, well, what's meditation? Well, it's just about not thinking. It's about sitting and not thinking. But it also will make you aware of what you're thinking. So when the thoughts are coming while you're meditating, you can go, oh, I seem to really be obsessed with this one topic because it keeps popping up in my meditation while I'm trying to relax and tune in. So that's important for a person to know. It can also help you really become aware of your feelings and what you still need to clear, like a sadness, a fear, an anxiety, something like that. So once you care about how you feel and you recognize and you're tuned into how you feel, then comes the work that we all have of shifting, how we feel and how we think, because that will shift everything for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. This is something I haven't heard it said, you have to care about how you feel. And it's so true. It's so foundational, right? To care about how we feel and then work to improve that if it's not what we want it to be, right? Do the deep work. So yeah, thank you for sharing this. And it's the foundation for everything we need to be working on right now.
Especially those of us who come into this life with the gift and the curse of being empathic, of caring about how other people feel, because then we want to make everybody else happy. We want everybody else in the room to be okay before we decide that we can be okay. And that makes it even harder to say, but I know you learn through experience, I don't really think life is about learning lessons. I know that a lot of people believe that life is a school, life is about learning lessons. I don't think that is true. I think that life is about having experiences, and we choose the life that we choose before we come into the body, because we want to have certain experiences. So if you want to be a gifted professional athlete, you're going to be born to parents who have that genetic makeup, and you're going to have a a body that has more fast twitch muscles and is quicker and, and better hand-eye coordination and all of those things, and you're going to have that sort of life. And then those of us who come in to do other things are going to have other proclivities and interests, and we're going to follow a different path, and we're going to give source energy an opportunity to have different experiences through us. And of course, we are that source energy. We're not just the puppets in that scenario either. We are that source that is having that experience through us. But I don't know why I went off on that tangent, because I was talking about something else about, well, yeah, when you are an empath and you realize, okay, the person that is in my life right now, whether it's my mother or my, don't do that. Be nice. It's mother and daughter, and the mother sometimes gets very alpha. This cat relationship. Speaking of relationships, so yes, you realize like, oh, so and so in my life is not happy, and you have to recognize that after time and time of having interactions with that person in your life, that you have to maintain your vibration if you're going to be of any good to yourself and that other person. Like, you can't just fix it through making things better for that person somehow. Your words might fall on deaf ears, but if you can say, okay, I have to stay centered, balanced, doesn't matter what's going on with the other person, I have to stay in my heart. And what we're here really to experience is the truth of who we are, which is love, and that love is unconditional. So that means you stay as that being of unconditional love, no matter what is happening with the other people that you're in the room with. And that is ultimately how you are the most service. That's how you're of the most service to them anyway, because they are going to benefit from you holding that higher vibration. They're not necessarily going to benefit from you telling them, hey, you've got to focus on the positive, which is what a lot of us New Agers do when we first awaken. We try to make everybody else into, to join our cult, of positivity, and, you've got to go process that fear that you're feeling. And the person will be like, what are you talking about? Like, this is a real situation in my life. I'm not just fearing, something that might happen. Like, this is real for me. So it's the most beneficial as who we are as awakened people to be it, and to let the being of it that we do be the teaching of it that we do, rather than just going out and getting a soapbox and getting into the town square and getting on the soapbox and starting to preach, because that's unfortunately the way most of us think we're going to have the biggest impact, rather than just by being it. And again, like I was saying before, by being it, by emanating that vibration, then your everything changes outside of you. Even going to a reality where the person who's been the hardest person in your life to get along with, or to see, for you to see them as being happy, they change because you changed not only yourself, but also your timeline, the reality you're in the moment. And everyone's going to reflect that to you. Everyone's going to reflect to you the work that you've done on yourself. That's why Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world, because if you're not willing to be it, then you're never going to see it. It's not going to be reflected to you, no matter how much action you take, no matter how many things you do action wise, you can't change what's out there unless you change what's inside of you.
And then it benefits you as well. If you're able to hold this higher frequency more of the time, then of course you're going to be feeling better.
Yeah. Yep.
General.
And that's it. And like we were saying before about caring about how you feel, that's the instant gratification you get from it, is now you feel better. So even if, let's just say that none of this other stuff was real, that no one was creating the reality, there's no such thing as a timeline, you don't affect anyone else in your reality, which of course we all know that is true because you can see it in your life. But you have then, in that moment, you're that guy sitting in that hospital bed looking out the window with a smile on your face, and like I was saying before, all you have anyway is the now moment. That's all we ever have. So at the very least, even if you're atheist and you don't believe any of this is true, and that we're just going to be worm food after we're dead and gone from this life, you still can have a better experience of your reality right now if you make that choice to do so.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Well, I would love to change topic a little bit and ask you about the star beings, our star families. And you are obviously very connected to them, and channeling the Arcturians regularly, and connected to others, if I understand correctly. So how are our star families wanting to help us at this time?
Well, I think that they've always wanted to help us, and they've actually erred on the side of interfering with our own natural progress, like you would as a parent sometimes, just want to do for the child and make the child's life better and happier in the moment, and not giving the child that opportunity to grow, that opportunity to figure it out for themselves. Like when my daughter's trying to get a shirt on, and I so want to just help her do it the right way and get those arms in the sleeves and the head through the big hole. And instead, instead of just letting her get there herself, I'll be like trying to guide the whole process. And she's 3, by the way, so she's at that age. And that's what the ETs have done throughout history. And then sometimes they've come and landed their ships. And I think when you look at Egypt, it's clear to see, with those pyramids and those drawings of the Sphinx and all these different beings, that they are in their history, or part of their lore in Egypt. It's kind of showing that there were some other beings involved, especially when you think about the positioning of the pyramids and how they align with Orion and all these things. So
it's beyond human capacities.
Yeah, we definitely have gotten help. And if you watch the show Ancient Aliens, you get that there's many sites all around the world where you can see that there's no way that the humans were doing this tens of thousands of years ago to make these structures. And other times, I think they've not only landed their ships and tried to teach us, which I think they were doing in Egypt. I think they were that Thoth and Horus and Isis and Ra and all of them were wanting to impart wisdom to us and get us to become aware of who we really are and all of that. And I think they ultimately decided these people aren't ready. We've given them enough. It's time to go. the pharaohs just keep getting more pharaoh-y, with their adornments and their gold and their chambers, and it was like the rich got richer, the poor stayed poor, and they couldn't really help people understand that law of one, which is a wonderful channeled piece of material from a being that was there in Egypt. All Ra was the one being channeled for the law of one. So that was what they ultimately wanted people to understand, is that what's most important is you don't see yourself as separate from anyone else, that we're all one here. And other times, Atlantis and Lemuria, we were helped to such an extent that ultimately we created our own downfall from it. There's different stories, of course. There's different stories about what happened there, and why those civilizations ended. But ultimately, I think we just weren't ready for the type of evolution and power and technology that we got our hands on. And then you see Stonehenge, and it's clear that that structure was being used for something like interstellar travel, like portals opening and things of that nature. So there's evidence all over the world of the ET intervention that has sometimes also led to interference with our natural growth. But now we're coming into this time where they're obviously not just landing and saying, okay, here's what you need to do. They're waiting for the appropriate time to do that. And in the meantime, we're getting all this help from the fact that so many are channeled, so many ETs and ET groups are being channeled, Bashar being the most notable of them, who, in my opinion, is offering the best teachings of any Bashar, Cryon, Abraham, they're all in that same league of really giving us unbelievably good information. I'm sure there's plenty others who don't have the same level of fame and that are out there doing it. But I really love Bashar and Bashar's teachings, and he's an ET, and he's saying, like, look, if we came right now, we would literally blow your minds. Like, you would go into psychic shock. You couldn't handle the energy that we give off. You would have to address all the darkness within yourself all at once in that moment that you were in our presence, and you would implode. And so they know now to sort of keep their distance, but also help. So Bashar is obviously helping without coming in and saying, here's this gizmo and it'll clean up your oceans, because until we again care, we have to care about the impact we're having on our ecosystem and the beings that live in the ocean and the beings that live on the land that are drinking the water that hasn't been treated for things. And we have to care about everyone, in order for us to have a cleaner environment, and for us to not be toxic on the inside. If we're toxic on the inside, then that outer reflection has to show us that this is what you look like on the inside too, So it does come down to, again, the individual and how the individual can change and help themselves first before we get the ultimate help that we desire. But I also want to point out that each of us is a traveler. Each of us has these other aspects of our soul in these other star systems and dimensions. So obviously we've made friends. We have contacts in the Pleiades. We have a Rolodex that includes Arcturians and Syrians and Andromedans and Lyrans and all these different beings. And some of them decided not to do a stint on Earth and have a series of lifetimes here. So but they still remember us, and they still are wanting to help us. So we have a star family, we have a galactic team, we have helpers who are very much like our spirit guides, who happen to be in extraterrestrial bodies. And I think that's another way that they're helping us, is by connecting with us in all the various ways that they can, including while we're asleep. We really don't have any idea how much is going on while we're asleep, but it's a lot.
Yes, I agree with that. I think my colleague and I lead a monthly global dream group, and it's fascinating how the dreams have been ramping up in intensity and frequency and the power of the messages just in the last year or two. It's really, really incredible. So
I see it all the time with my clients. Yeah, their dreams are amazing. Yeah.
Yes. So, well, I know we're near our time here. What words of wisdom, to summarize, would you want to share with everybody about what do we most need to know at this time? What's most important for us to carry forward from this conversation?
There was one other thing I wanted to include when I was talking about how everything is channeled. I believe also that psychics are channeling, that healers are channeling, that people who alter their consciousness in some way to tap into something, that all of that can be considered channeling, that it is very important for people to realize that what comes to them isn't random. It's in no way just happenstance what it is that is available to you in any moment, what shows up in your day-to-day experience, and that everyone has that ability. Everyone is psychic, and everyone is a healer, and everyone is a channel, but until you take the steps necessary to put yourself in that position where you're able then to tap into what is higher frequency, you'll continue to perpetuate the same ideas, the same thoughts, and the same realities, because you'll be at the same vibration, and that's all that'll ever be available. So you do want to make a list of things that you know are going to be your version of looking out that hospital window, whether it's, I've got to get outside and connect with the trees and the earth. I've got to spend time with animals. I've got to sing today, or I've got to dance today, or at least listen to music today. Get in the bathtub. Think about the people I love. Appreciate the things in my life that I've already manifested, that are already so wonderful and so far beyond where I was 10, 15 years ago. Those types of things are going to help everyone to hold a higher consciousness. And what is available to each of us when we close our eyes, when we breathe consciously, when we go within, there's so much ecstasy available to us in these bodies without having to take a single drug, without having to be in any sort of sexual encounter with anyone else or yourself, but just to be able to breathe and get there and focus and get there and show yourself what's available in this body in terms of how much of that dopamine and all DMT and all those things are released in the body when a person is able to focus in such a way. And those are the studies that have been done on meditation that prove all of that, that you can release all of this serotonin, all these good feeling chemicals in the brain and in the body to make us feel the way we want to feel. And that will change everything.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And it's like meditation goals, something to.
Yeah, and that meditation doesn't have to just be you just sitting there trying not to think. It can be pure ecstasy when you realize that you can get out of your head and you can really get into your body and start to shift your consciousness from being mind oriented to being heart centered to being more grounded, and being completely in the body will make that change automatically.
Yeah, beautiful. Magic can happen, and
Yeah.
it opens us up to all those other realms that we want to connect with. So
Exactly. And if you don't have that as your goal, but instead you let it be the byproduct, that's so much better. Because if you just say, all I care about is feeling better, I know I'll channel, I know I'll connect with all the other beings, because it'll be a natural consequence of it. But all I want to do is focus on me and how I feel. Let that be the goal. And then everything else will be the result of it.
yes. Okay. Wonderful words of wisdom. Thank you, Daniel.
You're
Truly
welcome.
appreciated. And so where can people find you? How can people engage with you? And what are you working on? What would you love for people to know about your work at this point?
Oh man, there's so many things I'm working on. I have another book coming out. That's volume 2 of my Ascension, the Shift to the Fifth Dimension series. There's 4 volumes out on Amazon right now. They're all of them paperback, hardcover, Kindle. They're all out there. I have a children's book in the works. I'm going to have my own platform, like a Gaia TV platform that other people are organizing that have invited me to be a part of. So the easiest way to connect with me and my work right now is just to go to my website, danielscranton.com. And Scranton is spelled just like the city in Pennsylvania. And so, I'm very easy to find. And I have messages that I'm channeling from the Arcturians. I put them on YouTube. I put them on the homepage of my website. New ones, usually 5 days a week, unless I'm on vacation. And you can sign up for my email list and you'll get those emailed to you every day. I've a free gift when you opt into my email list, which is a meditation. I'm just going to give you the healing meditation from Yeshua to give to your people, and they don't have to sign up for my list. I think that's a better way to do it. And then the one that's on the website right now that you get is an Archangel Michael meditation on grounding, so that you get that one when you sign up for my email list. But everyone can receive a free gift that Jocelyn will just give you of a meditation that I've done with Yeshua as well. And the YouTube channel is just called Daniel Scranton as well. And there's literally thousands of videos of me channeling on there.
Yes, your daily consistency with the channeling is very impressive. It's really quite.
It's good for me too. It's really good for me to do it.
Yes, yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you for the healing meditation with Yeshua that you've given to all of us. And so everybody, wherever you're listening or watching, if you just scroll down a little bit below the audio or video, you will find the show notes and you will find a link to that wonderful meditation. And also links to Daniel's website and other relevant links to his work. So I hope that you will all go and check those out. And you definitely want to be on Daniel's email list. He just has wonderful, beautiful things, and the channeling of the Arcturian Council and all kinds of great things coming out. So definitely be a part of that. Well, thank you, Daniel, once again. Always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for being a part of the Sacred Planet podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this wonderful episode of the Sacred Planet podcast. Be sure to click like and subscribe to our channel so that you will receive future updates. You'll know when we go live and when we are publishing the new episodes. And also be sure to put a note in the comments. What did this episode mean to you? What did this speaker and this topic inspire and awaken in you? And how do you want to share that with the world in new ways going forward? I would love to hear in the comments. And while you're here, go ahead and click on another podcast episode and open your mind, open your heart to more beautiful wisdom from the podcast. Much love, everybody.